welcome to this all-dog episode of Pet Pals. Right now we are in our slow season, which means we don't have a ton of animals. We have anywhere from 70 to 80 animals in our entire shelter. So there's not a ton on the adoption floor right now, which is an excellent thing for our facility, our staff, and the community, because that means that animals are in their homes and nice and safe. But we do have a larger number than typically we would for dogs. So today, Sean and I are going to introduce you to 6 of our adoptable dogs. The first dog that we have for you is Woodstock, and Woodstock is our cattle dog mix. He's about 1 year old, so he's still a young dog. He's an adolescent dog, and adolescent dogs can be really fun and really energetic and full of spirits, but they can also be like teenagers in that they kind of like to push their boundaries a little bit, like, what can I get away with? Testing those things. So you really do need to think about, setting a routine and setting those boundaries and implementing some training for any of the adolescent dogs that we have. And quite frequently, that's what we have. People get them as puppies, right? They're really cute. They don't necessarily put the time into socializing and training them. And then they get to be the size of Woodstock, and they're a little bit more unmanageable, and then they end up here in our facility. So Woodstock is a super fun dog. He's very playful. He is very cuddly. He wants to sit on you, in your lap, be in your face. He has a great smile. His fur is really soft. He has a lot of really great qualities, and he's going to make somebody a great pet.
So as you said, he's friendly, but in his kennel he doesn't necessarily show that well. So that behavior in his kennel, what's that stem from?
So there's a very common thing that you can see not only in shelters but in just homes in general, and it can be referred to as barrier aggression, barrier frustration, and it can come from being behind, say, a kennel door, like here in the shelter, a door at your house, a baby gate. Sometimes even dogs have it on leashes, and it's not so much aggression as it could be fear. We see a lot of dogs. I don't necessarily think fear is the issue with Woodstock, but say Julie, she barks pretty aggressively at the kennel because she's scared and she wants you to go away. She has no way to escape from you. With him, it could be more frustration, excitement. He can't get to you. He wants to cuddle and he can't get there, so he's just getting really frustrated. So there's a lot of reasons for that, and those are all things that you can work on with behavior modification and management in your household. But as you can see outside, he is the king of the cuddles. So if you are interested in Woodstock, or you love cattle dogs and you want to meet him, don't necessarily judge him by his kennel behavior or any of the dogs. Definitely take that opportunity to ask to meet him outside so you can see what his true personality really is. If you are interested in meeting our reigning king of cuddles here, Woodstock, the way that you're going to do that is by making an appointment to visit, and you can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me. Our next guest is Ben again, and he is one of our younger dogs on the adoption floor. Some people would say puppies, I would say adolescent dogs. He's about 8 months old, and he is a hound mix, and he is 100% high energy puppy. If that's what you're looking for, look no further than Ben again.
He was off our adoption floor for a few weeks, so he's been with us for a while. And he wasn't feeling great. How's he feeling now?
So as you can see, he's feeling much better. He's back to his, normal, crazy puppy self. He had a fever for a while. He had some nausea and some diarrhea, and so we just put him off the adoption floor while we were, treating all of his symptoms, giving him some different dewormers in case that was part of the cause. Keeping him in an area where he wouldn't be able to spread any germs to other dogs, but it's just going to be a more quiet, relaxed environment for him to feel better. And so once he started to, begin acting and behaving normally, back out on the adoption floor he went, where now he's looking for a forever family. Bennigan is a dog who enjoys, a nice, fluffy, curly, comfy blanket in bed. He has instead of a corunda bed, he has a regular, fluffy bed, and he enjoys curling up on that and obviously playing with the toys. But he is a high energy dog, so anybody, thinking about taking him on is going to have to make sure that he's a little nervous with the cameras. Make sure that they have a plan for providing him with a lot of exercise, activity, mental and physical stimulation, because he's going to need that. Otherwise, I always tell people, when you leave your kids unattended and they get quiet for too long, you're like, what are they doing over there? Same thing with these guys. If they don't have anything to keep them occupied, they're going to find something, and it's not always the thing that you would necessarily want them to get into. Chewing and things like that. Also just, establishing those good basic manners with him and teaching him, not to jump up on people, which he has a tendency to do, and to walk nicely on his leash. And things like that. So just all of those things that you would be doing with any puppy that you would take home. If you are interested in making Bennigan part of your family, the first step is obviously going to be to make that appointment. You can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me. If you have any questions about the animals before visiting, or you want to check and see if they're still available, you can also give us a call. Our main office number is 301-600-1546. Our next dog may be familiar to people who are frequently on our Facebook page, visit our shelter. This is Dakota, and during the Halloween season, she was here, but we were calling her Wednesday. So she was returned to us recently. The adopter said they were having some issues with her in terms of her behavior, as well as some anxiety issues. We have seen a little bit of change in Dakota since she's been back. She was actually more nervous when she was here the first time, and now she's definitely come into her own a little bit. As a young dog, just about a year old, she's right at the front of her kennel now. She's sometimes barking at you, trying to get your attention. She jumps up. She wants to come out and greet you and play with you. But previously, she was a little bit more reserved, a little bit more nervous. So she is kind of becoming a little bit more confident. She's a dog that's definitely a higher energy dog as well, much like Bennigan. Young dog's going to need a lot of exercise, mental and physical stimulation, but also just working on those boundaries with her. She jumps up on people, she pulls, she can be a little bit mouthy. Those are all normal young dog behaviors that are normal in the dog world. They're completely appropriate if you're just talking in the context of interacting with other dogs. It's only in the human world that they're kind of something that is frowned upon. So it's our job to kind of work with our dogs, train them so that they learn that those behaviors are, can be adapted into some other things. Like if she wants attention from Sean, she has to sit nicely instead of crawling all over Sean, things like that. And she's very treat motivated, so she is going to be a very trainable dog with just a little bit of time and consistency.
So given that she was returned to us once, what kind of family do you think would be a better fit for her?
I think somebody who's going to definitely have the time to get her out and get her the exercise. A lot of people just walk their dog on a leash, which is great. They still need to go out on leash and explore, and it can be some exercise. But for a high energy dog, one of the trainers that we work with, Pat Miller, says a walk is an appetizer for exercise. So she needs a lot of off-leash play, whether it's in a fenced backyard or somewhere else where you can go, or a long lead so she feels like she's not running around kind of confined. She can definitely just go for it. Mental stimulation like puzzle feeders and all of those things, maybe different scents, just giving her all those things to kind of keep her active. And training in and of itself is a great mental stimulation exercise. She's learning how to think. With dogs like her, I would also hopefully find a family for her that's going to work with her on things like the say please protocol, where she has to sit politely and quietly before she gets things. So she learns a little bit of impulse control. The previous owner did say she also had a little bit of anxiety, which can be hard to deal with. A lot of shelter dogs come out after being in a kennel for an extended period of time with a little bit of anxiety. So just being able to work with them, talk to your vet in case your vet thinks medication would be an appropriate route. Look for different trainers that can help you modify those behaviors as well. Understanding that some of the dogs from the shelter are turnkey, and some of them need a little bit more work. So just kind of figuring out when you come in what you're really set and prepared to handle, so that you can give them what they need and everybody in the household can be happy as well. If you're prepared to put in the little bit of work that Dakota needs to be her best canine good citizen, you can meet with her by going to visit fcac.as.me to book that appointment. We do have appointments available Monday through Saturday and evenings on Wednesday. Our next guest is Hugo, and he's been getting a lot of attention on our Facebook page right now. Everybody's pointing out his similar appearance to a very famous Disney dog, Tramp from Lady and the Tramp. But we have named him Hugo, and he is another one of our young dogs. And he is full of energy and full of life, and he's got a great big, happy smile. He is a little bit, he could do with a little bit of leash work. He's not really walking in a straight line and things like that. But he does know sit, and he sits quite nicely, and he's proud of his sit, and he likes to give you a smile and things like that afterwards. He has a lot of really great qualities. He has had no issues with any type of food aggression testing. He willingly gives up objects when you ask for them. He does really well, and with the other dogs, he play bows and solicits play with them. So he has a lot of great qualities that are going to make him a fun pet. He's just a silly, goofy dog.
So Hugo's profile says that you should meet him outside because he doesn't always show his best when he's in his kennel. But when I went and got him, he seemed to do all right with me.
Yeah, and that's we talk about this all the time, that these profiles, these behavior assessments that we do are really just a snapshot in time. That's how the animal was doing at that specific moment. And when these profiles are done, oftentimes the dogs and the cats are not, they haven't been here for very long. So they're still kind of stressed and not feeling, they're most comfortable. And when I first met Hugo, when I was walking by his kennel when he first got here, he did seem a little bit stressed, a little bit, uneasy, would bark at you a little bit. But now that time has passed, he's been moved, and now he's in our greeter kennel on the dog floor, and he's right at the front. No issues when you walk up to him. So, you always want to look at these assessments, use them for the information. It's valuable, but it's not a 100% indicative of how any animal is going to behave here in the shelter, over a length of time or in your home. But it can be helpful to say, when he first got here, he was a little bit nervous. So when he gets to your house, it's going to be a new environment. He's probably going to be a little bit nervous there as well. So you can use these things, but always be open to the fact that they're going to shift and change. They're not an all or nothing kind of scenario, which is why part of the time we do try, when animals have been here for an extended period of time, to do multiple behavior assessments on them. So if you were to look at, say, a dog like Achilles, who has been here as one of our longer residents, he's going to have a couple of these assessments. So you can see how they've changed and things over time. Hopefully, Hugo will get adopted really quickly because of his handsome good looks and goofy personality, and he won't have to get a second behavior assessment. But you can review his behavior assessment, all of his profile and things like that when you come to visit him. And the way that you can go about doing that is making that appointment. And you can go to visitfcac.as.me to do that. Our next guest is the oldest dog that we have for you on the show today. This is Earl, and he is listed as a pit bull mix. But Sean and I were just talking. We see a little bit more, Amstaff, American Staffordshire Terrier, in his face. Pit bull mix is just a generic term for a lot of different breeds, actually. The American Pit Bull Terrier, Bull Terrier, American Staffordshire Terrier, a whole list of things that can kind of fall into that category there. And he is blue. There is often a confusion about what colors certain dogs are, and different breeds have different colors. Even though they look exactly the same, depending on the breed, it's labeled differently. So Earl here would be a blue and white. He's very, very handsome. He has a great big smile. He often likes to pull his ears back and look like, a land seal in his pictures. But he's a very sweet guy, about 5 to 6 years old, very affectionate, loves a good treat. He's quite eager to come up to the front of his kennel to get some tasty snacks. And he likes to give kisses, whether you want them or not. So a little bit of manners training on, when is appropriate to, give smooches. It might be nice. Not every guest that comes to your house might want to leave with their face smelling like Earl's slobber. He is a dog that is just going to be a great addition. He does really well with other dogs. We haven't had any issues with him there, so he's going to be a great asset to a multi-pet household. And he's just, a fun, cool guy who's looking for a safe spot to land in his kind of retirement years.
So if Earl has some bare spots on his legs, are they cause for concern?
So anytime we see things like this on a dog, we obviously have our vet check them out. And so these little spots of alopecia are things that we've seen before in the shelter. And they are very common for dogs that have been lying on hard surfaces. Some of those things, the fur may grow back. Some of them stay there for a long time. Some of our viewers may remember Tala, a dog who was with us for a long time. She had a lot of those things from kind of sleeping on concrete. And even though she ended up in a nice home for the rest of her life, she still had some of those bare spots. And he's not the only dog with some of those things. I think our older dog Saul has some of those as well. It's something that we do. We do a full exam on the animals and we check those things out. But this particular thing is not really a cause for concern for Earl.
So when I was looking at his profile, I noticed he knows some tricks. What are those tricks?
So yeah, they just kind of like left you hanging. They left you wanting to ask more questions. They just said, he knows some tricks, and then that was it. Earl does know sit. And he knows paw, so those are some things that he knows. So he's definitely had some sort of training. He came in as a stray, but he's definitely had somebody to socialize him a little bit, teach him those things. What else he knows, I haven't quite discovered yet. I tried down. He wasn't into that. So he still has plenty left to learn in his new home because he loves some treats, so that'll be a fairly easy thing to accomplish with him. If you're interested in teaching Earl more tricks, you can do that by making those first steps towards adoption. It is an application process, but you also want to make that appointment to visit, and you can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me. And of course, you can find downloadable applications at that link as well. The last dog that we have for you today is Lyndon, and he is actually the newest dog on the adoption floor. They just put him out. This is kind of a first look, if you will, of this dog. They named him Lyndon because there's a tree called a linden tree, and unfortunately, this dog was found tied to a tree. Not a great story, but we are hoping that we can make the rest of his story a much better, much happier one. He's about 3 to 4 years old, and he is a brindle and white boxer mix, and he is a great dog. He was in processing yesterday, and he just sat there really nicely while they did everything to him, put the harness on him. He didn't even move. He just sat there. You said that you had the same experience with him today. So he's definitely a dog that's been owned and handled in the past. He is a little bit on the thin side, so we have him on 3-a-day feedings to kind of buff him up a little bit. And then depending on how quickly he's adopted, those are things that the owner would have to then think about, we always want our animals to be seen by a vet in 30 days or less from their date of adoption. So just figuring out where he needs to be in terms of how much he's eating, when he's eating, to get him up to his, standard healthy weight for his breed and, gender and size and things like that. This guy is one that we've behavior assessed, and he's friendly when you approach his kennel. He reacts favorably to other dogs. He's easy to obtain. He pulls a little bit when he walks. And as a thin dog, it's understandable. He gulped a little bit, things like that when he was doing his food aggression test, but no serious issues, willingly lets go of objects, likes to be petted. So all in all, he has a lot of really great qualities that are going to make him a great addition to a household. And he doesn't have any age restrictions or anything like that as to what type of household he can go to in terms of kids and things like that.
So I noticed his eyes are red. What could possibly be causing that?
So part of the reason that he's on a harness is because he likes to pull. And sometimes when dogs are, walking through on, say, just a slip lead, they're pulling a lot and they start to kind of choke themselves a little bit, and that can cause some redness and irritation in the eyes. But also, it's allergy season, and I would say almost 60% of our dogs are on some sort of medication for allergies, and he is also suffering from some allergy issues. So we've got him on some Benadryl, and we'll continue to monitor those things and change his medications as needed. But it's not uncommon for the dogs to have allergies, especially any of the dogs that are kind of in that bully breed family. I feel like they're the ones that tend to have a lot more allergy issues. So he's not alone. All of them are getting treated. They're seen by the vet and our medical staff regularly, and we're taking care of all of those issues for him. If you're into boxers, he is not the only boxer on the floor. Obviously, we have one of our longtime residents, Leah, who is also a boxer mix. So you have 2 options to choose from if you're a boxer fan right now, each with some different restrictions, different genders, a little bit different personalities. So great choices, but depending on what your family is looking for, 2 options in that boxer realm there for you. If you're interested in meeting with Lyndon or any of our adoptable pets, Again, you just want to make that appointment to visit, and you can do so by going to visit fcac.as.me. Again, we have those appointments Monday through Saturday, evenings on Wednesday, and you can always call and ask questions about the status of an animal before making that appointment. You can call the number to our main office, which is 301-600-1546. We hope you enjoyed meeting all of these adoptable dogs. There are still many more that haven't had an appearance on the show yet, so to meet those guys, I guess you'll just have to stop in and visit.